Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andy, or Caps Coverage, and today, as we dredge on through this offseason, we have a very big video. With TJ Oshie potentially being done with his NHL career, I know that he's trying to make a comeback right now, but it's looking like it might not happen. I wanted to go ahead and revisit the TJ Oshie trade that sent him to the Washington Capitals just over 9 years ago. Today I'm going to look into what the Capitals received in Oshie, everything the Blues got back, and how that trade tree has evolved since 2015, and just kind of where both teams stand, how the initial investment has worked out on each side. Let's get into it. So, the initial deal in the summer of 2015, July 2nd, the Washington Capitals received TJ Oshie in exchange for Troy Brouwer, Phoenix Copley, and a 2016 third-round pick. Now, we're going to start with the easiest piece of this initial trade, TJ Oshie. So, Oshie, as we all know, great Capitals player, played 498 games for the Capitals to be precise, had 192 goals and 193 assists for 385 points in those 498 games, won the Stanley Cup in 2018, 2020 All-Star Game selection, just a huge contributor, constant presence on the power play, huge piece in the Washington top six ever since he arrived. Capitals originally acquired him on a short-term deal, extended him on an 8-year contract right before he hit free agency. He loved DC. DC embraced him in exchange. It was a perfect fit. The Capitals would make this trade 10 times out of 10. But what did the Blues get with Troy Brouwer, Phoenix Copley, and the 2016 third-round pick? Well, Troy Brouwer is the easiest one. So he played in 82 games for the Blues, one full season, had 18 goals and 21 assists for 39 points. He would actually end up back as a Blue after that 2015-16 year, a few years later, signing as a free agent. But in that initial season where he was the trade asset, only played 1 year, left as a free agent, didn't do anything else. Easy enough to wrap up. Now, Phoenix Copley, as you may know, had a lot of time as a Washington Capital, but it was after this 2015 trade. That's because he was packaged with Kevin Shattenkirk at the 2017 trade deadline and sent back to the Washington Capitals in exchange for Zach Sanford, Brad Malone, a 2017 first-round pick, and a conditional 2019 second-round pick. Now, Phoenix Copley played in 2 games for the Blues, not the most memorable 2 games for him. Spent 1 year as Washington's full-time backup, played in 27 games, and actually had a .905 save percentage, had a decent year. And then Kevin Shattenkirk, the other piece they got back in the deal, he was the big name at that trade deadline for the Capitals. They were hoping that he could steady the presence on their right side, be a nice complement to John Carlson, playing second-pair minutes and getting that second power play quarterbacked, and he just did not quite become the difference maker the Capitals had hoped, en route to a second-round elimination at the hands of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Raise your hand if you've heard that one before. So what did St. Louis get back in this trade? They got 4 pieces, Sanford, Malone, a 2017 first, and a conditional 2019 second. Let's start with the easiest piece. That 2019 second, conditions were that Kevin Shattenkirk would re-sign with the Capitals. That did not happen. Blues did not receive that pick. Now, Brad Malone never played a game in the NHL. Done. There. That's over. Zach Sanford. Sanford's an interesting one. Sanford played in 183 games for the Blues, 36 goals, 35 assists, and 71 points. He had a nice little career in St. Louis. He was kind of the young piece going back in this one. Hadn't really established himself at the NHL level. Had some differing opinions about what his true upside really was. Would he end up being a top 6 forward like Washington had thought at some points? They didn't think so anymore, which is why they sent him to St. Louis, and he ended up being a bottom sixer for them. But he won a Stanley Cup with them in 2019, and 183 games played. That is a big thing for your franchise. Good work there by St. Louis. But Zach Sanford, no longer on the Blues. He was traded to the Ottawa Senators for Logan Brown and a conditional 2022 fourth-round pick. Another one of these conditional picks where the conditions weren't met, so don't worry about that fourth. But Logan Brown, he spent 69 games as a member of the Blues, had 6 goals and 11 assists for 17 points in those 69 games. Definitely a downgrade from Sanford. I think if St. Louis had a do-over on this one, they would just keep Sanford and sign him to a cheap deal instead of taking the chance on Logan Brown. And then that 2017 first. So that pick was used to select Morgan Frost. And you might be thinking to yourself, wait, Morgan Frost, he plays for the Flyers and he's pretty good, young player for them. Well, that's because this pick went to Philadelphia along with a conditional 2018 first and Yuri Laterra for Braden Shen. Yeah, this is the big piece in this deal. 507 games played for the Blues, 151 goals, 236 assists, and 387 points for Shen in his time in St. Louis. A 2019 Stanley Cup champion, a guy who's worn the A for them and currently wears the C for them. Great leadership piece, great presence in their top 6. Huge win here for St. Louis to pick up Braden Shen. And let's go back to the very top of this trade tree, because obviously Braden Shen, currently wearing the C for the Blues, he's not going anywhere. That 2016 third also went back to Washington. The Capitals are all over this TJ Oshie trade tree. That 2016 third, which was used to select Garrett Pilon, was packaged with a 2016 first, used to select Lucas Johansson, a couple of guys who were Capitals briefly. And they were used by the Blues to move up with the Capitals in the draft, and they selected forward Tage Thompson. Now, obviously, Thompson has exploded as a member of the Buffalo Sabres, one of the bright young stars in the league, but he had a very brief time in St. Louis, one half season at the NHL level, played in 41 games, had 3 goals and 6 assists for 9 points. Thompson just didn't quite pan out with the Blues. He did not have the career that he ultimately had with Buffalo, and because of this, they were getting a little impatient. They wanted somebody who could help them win now, so they packaged Tage Thompson with Patrick Berglund, Vladimir Sobotka, a 2019 first and a 2021 second in the summer of 2018, and sent it to the Buffalo Sabres to acquire Ryan O'Reilly. The other huge win in this trade for St. Louis. He played in 327 games for the Blues, had 97 goals and 172 assists for 269 points, won the 2019 Stanley Cup with St. Louis as the Conn Smythe Trophy winner for playoffs MVP. He was incredible that year for the Blues in the postseason in that underdog miracle run. Ended up wearing the captain for them until he was flipped at the 2023 deadline, a trade we'll get to momentarily. But yes, the Blues have already landed 3 Stanley Cup champions and 2 guys who have worn the C for them despite losing TJ Oshie. What at first appears like a lopsided trade for Washington kind of evens out over time. And then Ryan O'Reilly, unfortunately, could not finish out his career with St. Louis. 2022-23, the Blues were struggling, hitting the trade deadline. Ryan O'Reilly was a pending free agent, so they packaged him with another pending free agent, Noah Chari, and sent both of them to the Toronto Maple Leafs for Adam Gaudette, Mikhail Abramov, a 2023 first, a 2023 third, and a 2024 second. Gaudette played in 2 games for the Blues, had no points. Easy. Abramov has not played a game at the NHL level and is currently a restricted free agent. Might still be a player there, but who knows what's really going to happen with him. The 2023 first was used to select Otto Stenberg, decent prospect for St. Louis, but still yet to crack the NHL. The 2023 third was on Yuri Pekarczyk. Hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. And the 2024 second, just used in this most recent draft, was used to select Lucas Fischer. A couple of young prospects there in Pekarczyk and Fischer, who I don't know a ton about, but Otto Stenberg should be a solid player for St. Louis. That guy's got some good NHL upside. So that is your full trade tree, a trade that began with TJ Oshie going to the Washington Capitals in a summer blockbuster that sent back some key pieces, Troy Brouwer, a young goaltender in Phoenix Copley, and a 2016 third-round pick. None of those three ended up doing much for St. Louis, but the way that they managed those assets got them 3 Stanley Cup champions and 2 guys who wore the C for them. So let's look at the full breakdown of this trade. For Washington, they received 1 player. I'm not counting Kevin Shattenkirk, Garrett Pilon, and Lucas Johansson, and post-trade Phoenix Copley in this trade for them. I'm only looking at TJ Oshie's stats. And again, Oshie, he played in 498 games, had 192 goals, 193 assists, 385 points, a 2018 Stanley Cup, and a 2020 All-Star Game selection. Oshie is a great leader. I think that the Capitals would make this trade a billion times if they were given the option. Oshie, he's just so huge for this team. He was that missing piece that they needed to win that 2018 Stanley Cup, that missing winger that they needed in the top 6, another scoring presence to go along with Ovechkin at the time, somebody who could balance, somebody who could play that bumper slot on the power play that they had needed for so many years. Capitals aced it. Even though down the line St. Louis played well, that initial trade, Capitals, no question. But let's look at what the Blues got. So across all of their players, they have 1,213 games of service, 507 of them coming from Brayden Schenn. Brayden Schenn's actually the leader in all these, so I put his stats in parentheses next to each of them, so you can look at them if you want to. 311 total goals, 481 total assists, and 792 total points. They had 3 Stanley Cup champions acquired through this trade tree. Those are Zach Sanford, Brayden Schenn, and Ryan O'Reilly, and 2 captains of their team in Schenn and O'Reilly. So overall, looking back at the trade tree, obviously Oshie, great piece for Washington, something that they do anytime that they're offered. And while the initial trade looks rough for St. Louis, the more that you look at it, the more you realize that they got 2 true leaders in Schenn and O'Reilly, and somebody who was a key piece as a role player for their Stanley Cup victory in Zach Sanford. Thank you for tuning in today. I know that this was very much a marathon video, but it's something that I like to look into. You know, all these trades, the Capitals have had a very long history, a lot of players who have gotten to them. It's nice to see, what could have been on the other side. I'm sure that all of us love having TJ Oshie, but it's fun to look at what the Blues got. And I think it's interesting how a trade that originally sent them 2 things that would end up being back as Capitals, Phoenix Copley and a 2016 third-round pick that became Garrett Pilon, ended up turning into Ryan O'Reilly and Brayden Schenn for them. I think that's just kind of cool. So thank you for tuning in today. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you are new, and leave a comment down below. What did you think was the most interesting part of this trade tree? What's another one that I should look into for the Capitals? I've got an Anthony Mantha one in the works because that is a crazy deal that deserves some more looking into, and actually turns out okay on both sides if you ask me. But thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.